Hello my internet friends, my name is John Jags and we have these two cube lights. They're called Lume Cubes and we're going to be doing a little review on them. They're a little small, but I really didn't think they were going to be that bright, but oh my... Okay, so obviously we're talking about Lume Cubes today, and I've been using these a ton as of late for my toy photography and food photography. So let's take a look at some images that I've taken with these, and I want to show you what's in the box and then how I use them. So really quickly, the Lume Cube kit comes with this cool fancy case with the logo on it, nothing too crazy there, and inside you get a lot of really cool things. Within the case you'll find obviously your two Lume Cubes and then all the modifiers that they have. And I can't tell you how useful these are in being able to manipulate the light for my toy photography and food photography. Let's talk about the Lume Cubes really quick. They are incredibly bright, 10 different power settings, and they have an 80-degree beam angle, and then you can manipulate that with all the modifiers. So what are the modifiers that comes in this box? So the first modifier that I was really intrigued about was the barn doors. They're so cute, look how small these are. And what's cool about these is you can just magnetically seal them or put them on the light with the attachment modifier for the Lume Cube, and then just paint light however you want and basically shape it in any direction. So the barn doors is probably the modifier I use the most. Then outside of that is anything that goes over the light. What is that? Any of these magnetically attached overlays or filters on the lens. You have these two diffusion modifiers, so it basically just softens that light a little bit. So these are probably the modifiers I use the least at the moment, but we'll see what happens as I use these more and more. After the sort of bulb diffusers, you also have some other diffusers which are just almost transparent white sheets that kind of go over the light. So if I have my Lume Cube on at the lowest setting and then I just put on the diffusion strong thing, it will diffuse the light a little bit. And what's cool about these, you can also stack them, so it's becoming more diffused and more diffused. So it comes with two strong ones and two light ones. Unfortunately, because you have two Lume Cubes, then you can get the softest light between both of them. After the diffusers, you have some warming gels, CTL gels, which I don't know what that stands for. Marcus, if you're watching this, please help me. As a motion designer, there's some things in the set world that I'm still learning. But you have some warming diffusion gels. You have warm level 1 and warm level 4, and what's cool about these is if you have a 5600 Kelvin daylight light, which is what the Lume Cube is, you can put this warming gel over it and it'll warm that light up. For those of you who don't know, 5600 Kelvin is about daylight, so it's a very blue or cold color light, and if you need something a little bit warmer, then you can put the warming gels over your light. After the warming gels, you have a bunch of other little accessories. So in here, you also have some colored gels. You have a red one, a green one, a blue one, and a yellow one. So if you need to get some cool special light that includes super blue harsh highlight for a rim, then you can do that. So if I take, let's say, the blue one, and I have my Lume Cube here, and then just put the blue thing on, and now, hey look, it blew. It's now blue, except I can't see because I'm colorblind. And what's cool about these is for a lot of the toy photography that I do, I love incorporating orange and teal or red and blue, sort of like complementary colors, so to speak. So you can do that with these two lights because you have two of them in it, and then you have a red gel and a blue gel. After the gels, then you have some little hex grids, and you can just put these over the light and it'll help sort of concentrate that beam angle a little bit more so you can get some better light fall off, so to speak. So here's light, then grid over it, and then you can put the other grid over it if you wanted to. But then at that point, you could use the snoots. What's a snoot? Well, let's look at it because it's a funny word. This is a snoot. A snoot basically just is like this black cone that goes over the light. So when you do that, it basically turns it into a flashlight. So at this point, you could just use a flashlight in case you needed a third light, but hey, these do it too, and then they are also multi-powered, so you can just be like, boop, or hit the plus sign. Now I have a stronger flashlight. So the snoots are cool. I use them if I really want like one light in one spot, but it's literally a flashlight. Ooh. So as I mentioned earlier, I mainly use these Lume Cubes as my accent lights or ways to get some really cool lighting effects. So I should mention that most of the time if I'm doing a lot of this stuff, I will have a third light with me that will act as my key, my big light source that's gonna sort of light the majority of the scene. And then the Lume Cubes act as a way where I can add those little details that make a huge difference. So let's take a look at some of the images that I shot with past Jags, and I'll walk you through it with some crudely made drawings in Photoshop of what the behind the scenes would have looked like. Oh, hello friends. This is past Jags here, and we're doing a little photo shoot, and because I don't have two cameras, I'm just gonna tell you how I'm shooting this and using my brand new Lume Cube. So, what are we shooting today? Well, we have three friends here. Did you know that the stormtrooper that goes, "Traitor!" is named TR-8R in The Force Awakens, so the more you know. So we're shooting these three guys and the Peter McKinnon ballpoint pen. If the camera wants to zoom in or focus on that. So we're shooting these guys, and I've been using the Lume Cubes for a couple of weeks now, and I really like them. So the way I've mainly used them is I'll typically use them as an accent light or something to add some fill or some rim lights. So normally what I'll do is I'll use my big aperture 120D or my Falcon Eyes light to be my big main light source, and then I will use the Lume Cubes as my accents and fill. So what do I do with that? Well, I put the barn doors on those Lume Cubes to start so that I can shape the light around wherever I want. And then I'll put some sort of color modifier over it. So you can see in the background here on this one, I have the blue gel over the top so I can get a nice blue highlight. And then on this one right here, I have the strong warm diffuser over it. So I get that orange and blue sort of extra accents there. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take some photos and we'll let future Jags take back over and talk about what we did with some of these photos. Just kidding, I lied. Past Jags is here, and I just want to show you really quickly what we're doing here with this little photo setup. So obviously you just saw a bunch of other little shots, but how I'm doing all of this is I have my Falcon Eyes light right here as my big key, sort of lighting the main figure, which is obviously this little guy right there. And then I'm using one of my Lume Cubes right here on max power, just giving us that rim light right here on this side. And then we got my other Lume Cube with the blue giving us that cool highlight. So, or the cool sort of like blue glow coming from the background. So if we come back here, and I was shooting on the 90mm macro before that, before switching to the vlog lens right here. But the shot is basically something very similar to this. This guy obviously wasn't in the frame, but yeah. And then if I were to play with the ISO and the depth of field, it would be a really cool shot. Even then, this is a pretty cool shot. Obviously, that light back there in the background is not helping my case, but this is what we're working with right now. So this is how I would typically use the Lume Cubes for my toy photography, and I'm in the process of also getting a bunch more diorama props at the moment. But so far, these two lights right here, uno, dos, are amazing so far for getting a lot of creative shots with toys. The first image we have that we took with the Lume Cubes is this flat lay of my new Pete's Pirate Life pen and a bunch of the little toy accessories I have for my action figures. I felt this was a little cheeky because most people do flat lays for their photo gear, but I was like, I got a bunch of toy stuff. So did that, and the way I lit this was I had one of my Lume Cubes up high, sort of almost straight down on it, but slightly off to the side, and you can see on the highlights for the wood where it's heavier lit on one side and it sort of falls off in the upper right hand corner. So I felt this was a really cool way to use one light and get a pretty cool look with it. The next image is the same pen, but I had one of my Lume Cubes up high on a slightly higher tripod shooting down, and then I had the other Lume Cube on the opposite side of that, a little bit lower and then shooting down. That one was at low power, really just to fill in those shadows so it's not super contrasty, but then we just pumped up the contrast in post because why not with the little knives and grenades from my Halo action figures. Then the third image, we sort of pulled away and shot the flat lay I did at an angle, and then this one I did actually change the lighting position, so I have my Lume Cube off to the side and pretty high, and then you can see I tried to fill in those shadows on the opposite side of that. So pretty much I have the light camera right, and then the camera left light that was further behind the subjects, and then I had that one at the lowest setting just so I can fill in those shadows a little bit. The next batch of images, I used an extra light, my Falcon Eyes sort of LED thing, and this acted as my main key to really light the majority of the subject, and then I used the Lume Cubes as my accents for it. So the first image is this image of a smoky stormtrooper. He's having a time, and the way I lit this one is I had my big key light, my Falcon Eyes off camera right, and then if you look on camera left, I have a Lume Cube at full power blasting light on that subject so I can get that really cool rim. And then on the background, I had a flat black piece of foam core, and I pointed the light up so then you can get this cool sort of like glowing effect with the stormtrooper, and then I set the blue gel over that so you can get a cool sort of like blue glow from it instead of just like a flat 5600 Kelvin glow. So blue gel, I felt it looked pretty cool. The next stormtrooper image we have, I took 3 of my Black Series action figures and then set them up 1, 2, 3. And then I used my Falcon Eyes light as my big key, and then we have a rim light that is camera left, full power, shooting from the back just like the last image, and then I used my Aperture ALMX light to light that background with a warm setting, and then I used a air conditioning grate filter thing so that I can get that cool pattern in the background. And then the second Lume Cube for this shot, I had my Lume Cube with the blue gel camera right once again, shining blue full power on the other side just so I can get a hint of blue on that right side. So that's all the images I took from this little photo shoot, but I've taken a bunch with my Emil action figure from Halo Reach and my Iron Man action figure, and so far I am thoroughly impressed with these lights because one, they are much smaller than my big fat Aperture 120D that I'm using right here, and I love that light to death, but this is so much easier, especially for small scale things like toys and food. These are awesome. Are they awesome enough to recommend? I would say yes. I spent $300 for this kit, and it allows me to work much faster because I have smaller lights and smaller accessories, and rather than having to use my big light. And then for these small scale things, it makes my studio setup so much more manageable than having to bunch out a bunch of stuff. I have just this little tiny case that allows me to do some awesomely creative things with my toy photography. Now, I should mention at the end of this video that I am not sponsored by Lume Cube to say any of the things I'm saying. I'm saying this purely from a user fan sort of, I just bought these because I wanted to do cool shit with it, and yeah, I recommend them. If you do toy photography or food photography, these will help you immensely. I know they have been very helpful for me, and they will speed up your workflow. I hope they might have the opportunity to speed up your workflow as well. So, that's it. That's the little Lume Cube 2.0 Pro Kit review that I have for you. If you learned something, let me know. If you would like me to do a more in-depth behind the scene on some of these photos, let me know. I'd be more than happy to do that. I do need to get a second camera. That would make life so much easier. But That's it. I hope you learned something, and until next time, my name is John Jags. I appreciate you watching this video, watching my face, and joining me for some part of your life, because you're not getting that back. But that's it. I will leave you with this. Eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, and you will make some gains. All right, bye, my friends. Talk to you soon.
Put the place up.